Hi, everybody. It's Lisa Rose. I'm an intuitive life coach and spiritual mentor, and I help creative women on a quest for change create a new beginning by realigning their lives to their soul and using their intuition. And this is my first episode of In Conversation with Lisa Rose, and my guest is Christina Adams. And she's a camel milk expert. She's the mother of an autistic son. She's a writer, and she's an author. Her first book was titled A Real Boy, about the challenges of autism for parents. And her most recent book, which we'll be talking about today, is Camel Crazy, A Quest for Miracles in the Mysterious World of Camels. And it just won a Nautilus Book Award. So congratulations, Christina. Congratulations on the book award. It's very exciting.
Thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to be here. And I really appreciate everyone taking time today from their scrubbing their groceries or whatever things that are taking our time these days to be with us. And I really want it to be a positive note in your day as it is mine.
So for everybody that's watching, if you're on Zoom, there's a banner on the bottom. There's a chat box. You can click on the chat box and post a question. We'll be handling the questions at the end, not as we go. I think it's just an efficient way to do it. So if you have a question for Christina, put a big fat Q at the start of your question, and then I'll be able to go through the feed very quickly and capture those. I wanted to respond to, I know, a question that we're going to get, and that's going to be, where do I get camel milk? And how much camel milk do I give to my child or to somebody who wants to try to use it as a healing nutritional? And that information is in the back of this book. And Christina took great care to put all kinds of detail back here. It's like an appendix. And if you go to the back of the book, you'll see there's notes, there's resources there on how to get the camel milk from a variety of different people that can sell it to you. There's instructions on how to give it to your children or to take it for yourself, and a lot of additional resources for information. So all the answers to those kinds of questions are right here for you in the book. And you can buy the book at, I bought mine from the author, so mine's signed. And you can also get it on Amazon. And I have, if you're on Zoom, I have the Amazon link so you can click and buy the book right there in the chat. And it's going to make a really wonderful Mother's Day gift or even a Father's Day gift that your mother and father will enjoy immensely because it's a fabulous story. So there's some information for you to start out. The other thing I want to say is there's so many people on the internet right now with everybody being, sheltering in place and in quarantine, that it's a possibility it could slow down or go down, but we'll still be here. So go ahead and just rejoin us if that happens on your end, okay? So I wanted to just start with my impressions on the book. This is an amazing memoir about your journey, Christina, across the globe to find a continual source of camel milk for your son, particularly once you discovered that it was helping his systems for autism. And this story is so rich in detail of not only of your personal journey, but also the related science and the ancient wisdom from cultural practices that we're finding are having a contemporary solution for wellness. So I wanted to just start with my favorite quote from the book, which is actually a great summary. I probably should end with this, but I'm going to start with it. And that's where Dr. Amnon Ganen, the Israeli physician that helped you, he wrote, "Many people say they would go all over the world to help their child, but to see a mother who did it, nobody really does it, but you did." And I think that that's such a great summary. I know he said it in the beginning of your journey, but it also is fitting for the end. But my favorite page in the book is on page 2, when you write about your first encounter with a camel owner at a festival, here in Orange County where we live. And he was telling you about camel milk lotion and soap. And then you asked him a question: what else do you do with the milk? And it's my favorite moment because that's the moment that changed not only the course of your life, but also for your son, and started your journey in this mysterious world of camels. So my first question for you, Christina, is when did you know that you were on the path to creating change that ended up going far beyond helping yourself?
When did I know that? Oh my goodness. Well, I suppose when I wrote my first book, A Real Boy, I did it really to help others, and being a writer with a master's in writing that I had recently gotten, it was a chance for me to write, but also help others. So in the first book, I was kind of aware of that. But this book and this time, this moment in time when I met the camel, I wasn't thinking about that at all. So when I asked that question, it was just a combination of boredom and nosiness, which is a journalist writer type. I'm a nosy type intellectually. So I don't even know why I asked that question, but that question was kind of like stepping into a vortex that I couldn't have imagined. And it took me to another world, another realm. I'd already been investigating science, but it really, put me into that world. So when did I know it was going to really help so many other people? I suppose when I really, I guess I would have to say, I mean, I always thought it would probably help. It was just my intuition, which we'll talk about later. But I guess once it had such an incredible impact on my son, which it did overnight, that's when I realized, okay, it's just confirmed what I thought, what I hoped, but wasn't sure. So then, just without even really thinking about the world or a big thing, I was just like, got to help other kids, got to help other kids. I mean, which has been the nature ever since my son was diagnosed. So that's when I guess it was just a mission. It wasn't a bigger thought. It was just more like, that's how I'm doing it. That's just what I did. That's just what I do. So that's
So talking about intuition, I have two questions that I'll just ask them both at the same time, and then you can tell me what you think. So you write about in the book about studying psychology and biology and law and medicine, and how that endeavor quickened your intuition. You talk about that on page 4, early in the book. So my question is, what is intuition to you? And in the beginning, did you have a feeling or an intuitive hit that the camel milk would work for your son?
Well, the minute I met the camel, that was just like, okay, I met the camel. I walked over, I talked to the guy, as you said, we talked about soap and lotion. But when I asked that question, he answered, it's given to premature infants in hospitals in the Middle East, and it's thought to be non-allergenic, maybe close to human breast milk. That was the moment where it wasn't even a thought process. It just came to me, boom, I think it will help his autism symptoms, which are tied to his immune function, which I already knew, and that it would also be a good dairy substitute for other people. So looking back in life, of course, we can tell with experience that, wow, I should have listened to myself then, or oh boy, did I know better, but I wanted what I wanted, or somebody said I had to do something or whatever. I did already know by then that the only times I really got in trouble in life were when I did not listen to my intuition. But I wasn't primed or raised to listen to my intuition. And so that's something I had learned by then. But I didn't really know how powerful it was. So my experience with the science, and then my experience with all the anecdotal evidence, when not only my son, but then I spread the word globally and other people started using the milk, then it confirmed that my intuition was being led down the right path by what I had learned with the science and with the anecdotes from other people. So now that I've studied it a little bit, you could call it pattern recognition. I mean, our intuition is kind of like you can call it an inner voice, you can call it an inner wisdom, you can just call it a primitive reflex if you wish, but it is in us. And I do believe it's just a different form of intelligence that we could call pattern recognition. Human beings are always primed to make sense of the world around them by recognizing patterns. That's how we survived. Oh, there's a lightning in the sky, a lightning bolt in the sky. That means something's going to happen, which we've already, we learn instinctively. That's kind of scary, a loud noise for us. So, we've learned that's a danger signal. So we do have built-in detection of patterns for things that enable us to survive. And so I do believe our intuition is just like one of those kind of forms of intelligence. And when we have data or when we have knowledge or experience and it meets our intuition, that's when great things can happen, including science.
So one of the things that I loved about this book was your rich, detailed descriptions about nomadic culture and camels themselves. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the ancient wisdom versus science and the helpers along your way. So, you write in your book that there was a point where you needed a letter from your son's doctor to bring camel milk into the country and to get it through customs, because the milk, at that point, raw milk wasn't available here, and particularly camel milk wasn't even allowed in the country. And you needed a letter to prove some sort of medicinal requirement for it. And the doctor scoffed at the idea that the camel milk was even helpful because he never heard about it. And I bursted out laughing when I read that line and said, well, that can't be true. Why not? Because I never heard about it. And yet the nomads have been drinking camel milk, and also people in Eastern cultures for thousands of years. So what do you think is the best way to build a bridge between these two perspectives?
It's funny, it's really difficult to build that bridge because there are a lot of cultural structures between listening to people that we, quote, don't know. Oh gosh, that's from overseas or that's from wherever. And so people get kind of blinded by that. And then of course there's kind of that bias implicit in Western medicine, in Western science that, well, we have all these sophisticated things so we know better. And yes, we have had many great forms of progress due to some of these advanced capabilities, but some of the knowledge that's out there is very valuable and it gets left in the dust. So building the bridge has been very difficult, and I've been doing it for a long time. So it started when I realized other mothers told me, hey, autism, guess what? You need to do this diet. You need to try this and this. If you just listen to whatever the people tell you that are in the medical authorities, nothing's going to happen for your kid. And boy, were they right. So now I am one of those moms. However, we do need our physicians. We do need our doctors and our scientists. So it is important to build the bridges. And the better educated we are and the more respectful we are, then the more that eventually people do start to realize, oh, guess what? Somebody knows something that maybe I don't know. But it is hard. So I think the best way to build the bridges is just keep at it. I mean, seriously, it's difficult for messaging to get from cultures that I deal with who are often nomadic people in the desert. I mean, they have their smartphones and I can do video calls with them. I get text messages and I send pictures and all that. But it's not easy for people to reach out to people like that unless they have a reason, or for them to find you, which they have a reason to find me. So you see a person that looks like me with a camel, that's a little bit of a novelty in some places. So it does, create a bond for us to communicate. But building the bridges are difficult. So I always say, just keep at it. You have to do what's right for you and your family. And if you do it with careful deliberation and you make choices that are good for you and your family is thriving, or you're proud of your choices, then that's your business. So eventually, if you're doing the right thing, you won't be the only one doing that right thing.
So in this book, I think it's been a long time since I've done this to a book. I've written all over it. I highlighted things.
Love it.
I got my little pages marked, and I even laughed myself when I opened up this page the other day, when I read the book twice, right? So I did all this markup then the second one, but so many times I've written this, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, right? So what I was oh my godding about was how quickly the right help, like the right people, the right places, the right situations were created once you had set your intention and you were trusting your intuition and you were taking steps along the way. It's like the universe, I believe the universe sort of supports you, rushes in to support you when your intention is made really clear. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about the helpers, because help, it arrives so quickly. One person knew another who led you to the next person. Strangers, not people that you know really well or got to know, strangers just helped in extraordinary ways, like bringing suitcases packed with camel milk into the country for you. Most astounding was the Jewish community, the connection in Israel, and their connection to the Muslim Bedouin community, the Nomads, who were working together to help bring the camel milk to a variety of people all over, ended up being all over the world. And that certainly doesn't look like what we see on television, right? So who were the helpers along the way? And did you feel like the universe was supporting you on your quest?
That's a great question, and it kind of builds on what we were saying. How do you build those bridges between cultures? So I never dreamed that I was going to know anything really about a camel or its keepers or anything about this. So it was just that mission that I was on. So when I started talking to people here in Orange County, California, which is not a camelish kind of place, obviously, in an obvious way. We have cities here. It's a pretty expensive place to live generally, and it's pretty urban, or suburban. So you wouldn't think that there were many people here that could help with something like that. I just started talking to people in my life and new people in my life. So I was just become a single mom at that time, which for a single mother of a child with autism can be almost life-threatening. It's very difficult to help our darling children with autism because a lot of them have challenges, health issues, behaviors, and to do it by yourself is life-threatening for mother and child. So luckily I was more fortunate than most. I was getting child support, spousal support, but he took all my time. So wasn't like I could go out and find anyone that I wasn't going to interact with. I just started trying to take care of myself, going to the gym. I met a wonderful guy there, Pakistani American, and I started talking to him. And then I went to a party in Newport Beach, a very nice place, with friends I'd had forever. Who was there? A nomad from Niger, whose family, has been selling jewelry in Niger, a windswept, beautiful desert country, for centuries. And he's like, oh, I know about camels. And so you just start turning under the rocks of, by asking these unusual questions, and you just never know. So I guess we're surrounded by possibilities that unless we ask, we are not going to know about them.
I also love in the book with the gentleman that you met who was selling jewelry who was from Niger, and he gave you a silver bracelet with a modern version of the camel hump on it. So when I read that, I was like, that's the sign. There's the sign. She's getting the signs already, and actually in a physical form. So, another thing, the connection that I made between, your wanting to deal, desiring to deal, finding a way to deal with the nomadic cultures is your own ancestral lineage of homesteading, where your parents had gone back to homesteading to be able to raise you in the Appalachia. And the dedication in your book reads, to my beloved husband, our dear children, and my exceptional mother. What do you feel makes your mother exceptional?
That's so wonderful to hear you speak about that on the program. I don't believe I've been asked that before in doing the book tour about this book. So that's wonderful. I really am honored and lucky that I have a great mom. My mom is a very modest person. Appalachian people in general are very modest people. They're not big talkers about, emotional, spiritual kind of things. They're much more the doers, the quiet people that will do what needs to be done. And so that's kind of the way I was raised. But I was raised with authenticity. Pretension was never something that I have ever seen in my family, nor would I ever. And so I suppose that makes you more accessible to other people when you're not trying to hold up a facade and you don't have pressure on you that, oh, you have to look like you have a certain social status or something. Then you don't have to do that. And you're going to get more real input from other people if you're not doing pretentious stuff. So my family did make that choice. I was born in DC, and I grew up in suburban Virginia in a nice ranch house and things like that. We had disposable income, stay-at-home mom, but they always wanted to go back and do that farming thing. So they moved us to this remote farm in Appalachia, Virginia when I was about to turn 14 years old. And I was very depressed by it. I did not want to be there. And I had lots of strange experiences with that. I rode the bus with some kids that chewed tobacco and they were younger than me. And overalls, and it was really quite a different thing. And my father was launching his business, so and he grew tobacco, corn, hay, pigs, cows. So here I am out, grumbling as I, rode the tobacco setter um, and chopped wood, with no gloves in the snow. I mean, it kind of sounds like some kind of depression era tale, but it was kind of difficult. But my family was making what was right for them. And so my dad's business did eventually take off. And so, they did what they wanted to do with that. But for me, I usually felt like this is just not the right choice for me. I shouldn't be here. I should be in a bigger city or something. But I did go to a nice college in the area. Then I went straight back to DC. Boom, I'm back in the district because I always had the big dreams, the big goals. And so I learned how to kind of work the chain of command by working at the Pentagon. I learned how to deal with high-level officials. And then I came all the way to LA eventually and worked in aerospace, and I learned again how to deal with those things. So guess what? When it came time when autism unfortunately did affect my son, who had gotten the skills to learn how to rattle the cage nicely, but I knew you don't have to take no for an answer at the bottom of the chain. There's answers higher up. You just have to get to them. You just have to do it right. And so I guess all that preparation had really gotten me to the point where, hey, you know what? Once I met a camel and I started doing this thing with farms and all that, and I went back to these farms, which I do a lot, in ranches and places in the Middle East and India, I feel more comfortable than I ever could have if I had not had that homesteading experience.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So, now looking back, things went well, but in the journey, there's moments in the book that you talk about where things didn't go so well. And the one that was sticking up in my mind was when things were beginning, you're trying to manifest this situation of the continual source for camel milk, and you finally get the camel milk. You spend thousands of dollars in expense to get it. It's safely living in a freezer in your garage at your home in California. And you come home one day and notice that the lights won't turn on, the power went out, and you had lost all of your precious liquid, that was going to be helping your son. And you write about how devastating it was in that moment. It just knocked you off your feet. It was like someone punched the wind out of you. And when I was reading that, I recognized that as someone who teaches manifesting, that the moment when the universe challenges you in a way that gets your attention to make you think, do I really want what I said I wanted? Do I really want it? Because the journey's going to be rough. It's not going to be easy. We're going to help you, but you better really want it if we're going to rush in to help you. And so, I know there was that moment in the book. My question is, was there ever a time when you felt like just giving up?
With autism, there's always times when you feel like giving up, always. But I had learned it's not an option. And sometimes you just have to take a new path. You have to find a new way. So with the camel milk, I never, ever did think about giving up. It's kind of amazing. I never did. But at that moment, that was a horrible moment because this was that precious milk from the Bedouins in the desert in Israel. And that is, I went to so much trouble to get that. I even eventually got USDA permission to bring it in. It's just amazing the hoops I had to leap through and the cost. But at that moment, it was very, very depressing. As I write in the book, it's even visually awful to see what had happened to that milk. But no, I did not ever think about giving up. So I just had to ask around and wonder what I was going to do. And then I did get other people helping me again, bring some more back into the country.
So in the book, there's, several moments that are challenging or difficult. Again, being told by your son's doctor that your idea was stupid. He actually used that word. I gasped when I read that. I was angry for you. That's how you know you're reading a good book. When the author has so much emotion and the words jump off the page into your heart, and you're feeling what they were feeling in that moment. Also, becoming extremely ill in India, where you needed serious medical attention. The effort of marrying the science to the wisdom. So looking back on it, what was the most difficult moment in the journey for you, if you could pick one?
Ooh, well, this has been a very difficult journey. But most of it has been very, it's just that I wish I could describe it very well. I bet you could describe it better than me. But for me, I just have never really thought about stopping with the milk and getting it and putting the message out, except for sometimes it's been very, I guess the journey, that's one thing. I will say getting the messaging out has been difficult. Except for sometimes it's been very, oops.
Okay, sorry. I was checking for comments on Facebook and I ended up putting the sound on.
That's fine.
Okay, we'll look at them. We'll look at them in a minute.
I think the difficult time is getting messaging out about it, but I have done that. But as far as the journey itself, even almost feeling like I could die in India, as I even, say in the book, you know what? I made the choice to be here. I feel fulfilled by being here, and I don't want to die. But if I do, it will be in the service of something that I believed in.
Mm-hmm. That you felt really strongly about. And at that point, you already knew the benefit was going to be beyond yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that time it had already become a global movement by then.
Yes.
So I was there to help support that. Right.
So speaking of manifesting, how did you manifest the amazing Tony, who you talk about in the book?
The amazing Tony, who has been an integral part of this journey. So as I started this journey, I was really, the minute I met the camel, I mean, really, I'd only been separated for 2 or 3 weeks and was still under the same roof with my ex and, catastrophizing how it was going to be with a child that really needed a lot of support. Even though he was doing great, don't get me wrong, he was far exceeding where he had been and he was doing great, but there's always still some issues with many of our children. So, but even then, alone in my house, wondering, what was going to happen, I just thought, I know that I want the next time, I want there to be real love. I want there to be real love, not somebody looking at me like, oh, you kind of look like a good person that I'd like to be married to. You kind of punch the ticket, or you have certain skills that I think I should have in a wife or something. I wanted someone that really loved me, that would really love them. And then I wanted someone that would be like me as far as personality traits. And that's what I really wanted. So I even read a couple books, and that really helped me put my head on straight. And then I did some work. So I actually really did some work and went to I went to one workshop, just a one-day thing. And I did a lot of journaling. And before then I kind of went, journaling, it's for wusses, I'm a writer. I don't want to write that mushy self-journaling stuff. But I actually did think, okay, I'll try it. And so it really did help. And then I was like, I had a reason. Somebody said, hey, why don't you write, the dating site said, write the profile, like, what are you looking for? It actually said, what are you looking for? And I thought, oh boy, I really do have to write this. What am I looking for? So I actually put it down and I put it out there. And what do you know? He wrote back and he said, hey, I kind of fit what you're looking for. I might need some help with the dance ability, because I said you have to be able to dance, and not well, just enough to stand up and get out there. You have to do this, but I said, most of all, you have to have a good heart and integrity. And he wrote back, hey, here I am. I pretty much fit the bill. Might need some help with the dance. Might need to brush up on the wardrobe, but here I am. And guess what? There he was.
So how many frogs did you have to kiss before you found the prince?
Oh, well, Orange County has some attractive frogs, very attractive. And, I guess I like to look at it this way. I had not been in a relationship that was a very love-filled relationship. I really didn't know how to handle all that love, once I got it. It was kind of overwhelming, like, whoa, I haven't really been this way for a long time. So probably it was a step-up process. So I did go out with some people that I feel, hey, you know what? I learned from you. You have great things here that I think I want, or I thought I wanted, but you're not the person that I'm looking for. And so as my husband, Tony, says, he had a dating philosophy because he's a business guy. He said, speed to failure. So it's sort of like an economic or business concept. If you're going to make your mistakes, get in, do it, and get out. So I guess I was doing my own little, give it a try, but then speed to failure. Once it's done, because people will show you who they are sometimes, and you really then don't want to see it later after you've gotten attached. But you have to remember they are who they are, and if they're not going to change, or you haven't, if you're not right for them, break it and get out. And you can be kind, you can have good intentions, like I'm not a negative person, all that kind of stuff. I never say ugly things or things like that. Just like, you know what, thank you, and this is it. Hope it goes well, and you got to go move on to where you need to be.
So in the book, you talk in detail about the changes in your son once he got rid of dairy, and I know he had problems with carbohydrates and some other things, but when he started regularly drinking the camel milk, that you talk about it in detail in the book, the extraordinary changes, almost like he was a different person. And when I met him at your book launch party, I didn't know who he was. I hadn't been introduced to your son, but I engaged in conversation with him for a few minutes. I think I had to lead him to another part of the house. And I was shocked later that was your son, because I would have never guessed that he was being challenged by autism, or that he had an autism diagnosis. And I think at that point he was already 20, if I remember. So my question is, now, after going through all of this, and the camel milk has helped him, how is he now? Does he still drink the camel milk, or was it just necessary during the development process and now he can sort of back off on it?
Well, that's a great question. It was really necessary for a lot of years. So when you read the book, Camel Crazy, you'll see, people that are listening, you'll see that not only did it have that initial powerful impact, it also continued to have one for years under different circumstances, which I outline here and there. So ideally, I wish he would still drink it all the time, but he's going to a school and he lives in his own apartment. So I can't be the, nagging that I am all the time, which I would if I could do it all the time. So the funny thing is, he doesn't need it anymore to, function like he used to. He does not. And he can even, and I hate this because I don't want him to, but he even can eat regular cow milk stuff now. But I don't think he should, but it doesn't seem to affect him as badly. Now, recently we went on a trip somewhere and he ordered a milkshake, and then he didn't feel good the next day. He was in a bad mood and his face was like really red the night before, and he didn't sleep well and he didn't know why. And I was like, hey, guess what? That milkshake was like really bad for you. All that sugar and all that cow milk and stuff. And he's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it. You're right. So he can't take it in the big doses without effects. And when he is not feeling well, he does drink the camel milk.
Interesting. So, and in your experience for children with autism, and I would say also in your book, you talk about children who have gastrointestinal disorders, Crohn's disease, and some juvenile arthritis, and there's some other diagnoses in the book that seem to be benefited by camel milk. But sticking with the autism, it seems that it's the raw camel milk that has the most beneficial effect. Would you say that that's true in your experience?
That is a very interesting thing, and I've been studying it for years. So that's one of the most common questions I get as well. Initially, like I would say, from my experience with a lot of different milks now, if you can get milk fresh from an animal in a desert country where they have camels, that's going to be the best. There's no way around it. But I've come to see that, raw is very, very special. I do think it is very powerful. But I have come to see with some of the methods that we have now, like the flash pasteurization and the powders, some of the powders, they are very good too. So it's really kind of a triage. So I say, start out, if you're comfortable with the raw, go straight to the raw. But if you just want to try the easefulness of a powder, or if you just want to, start with the flash pasteurized, because somebody in your family's nervous or whatever, then start for those. And if that's not enough for you, then go to the raw. So that's what I say. And then just for fun, like here, I actually have this. This is a little, because people are always curious what it looks like. So this is a powder, and it is from a fantastic place in the Middle East, Camelicious, which I do describe in the book.
Yes.
And so people always want to know what it looks like. So, here it is, the little, I'll put it in the glass so you can see. Can you see the little powder coming out?
Yes.
Like little white snowflakes, very cute. This stuff is pretty darn powerful. I really like it. And then here's some of our unpasteurized milk from America. Fantastic stuff. Love that too. And I have both in my house. So, I have all kinds of camel milk things in my house. But I do talk about that in the book. So you did mention the appendix. It's in the back. So you have kind of the story and the pictures and all the fun stuff up front. And in the back, you have the appendix, which I kind of have a table of different conditions and how much you take and things like that. But then I have the advice, like, okay, this is the answer about the raw and the pasteurized and X, Y, and Z and things like that.
Yeah, and you include all the science in there too, and compare it to other types of milks, which I thought was really beneficial. So let me ask you this question. Maybe you don't know the answer to this one. I'm kind of curious. I would love to ask the Bedouin community what they think about your work and what you've been able to do, because it's almost like in Western culture, the idea of using camel milk is like a big secret, or it's too weird and it's too strange, for anyone to wrap their head around. And now that it's in demand, there's actually farms in the United States, camel farms that their product is camel milk. It's not just for show and tell at the Easter service or at the county festival, or to give the kids a ride on. It's actually it's changing, and it has changed. And I wonder what the nomadic people would think about that. Would they ever share that with you, about their feelings about it going west?
I talk to nomadic people practically every day from different places. Kenya, India, lots of people from Pakistan. I don't know if they're particularly nomads, though some of them are science people. I just, right before we started the show, I think I got an email from, it's a country I haven't dealt with before, but it's maybe near the Horn of Africa. So there's not really many days that go by that I don't talk to my friendly pastoralist nomad contacts. And they think it's great. They always know that camels are good. They did not know, though, that the milk was going to help a thing like autism, because most of them, have not heard of it, autism. A lot of these traditional cultures and in our own society, autism is a relatively recent disorder. Have there always been cases of autism? Absolutely, but there were not that many. So it's a different thing we're looking at now. So they get very excited that it's helping people. A lot of them are Muslim, not all. Some are Hindu, different faiths, but a lot of Muslim people, they know that it's been mentioned in the Quran. So they're very pleased that, their special camel is having yet another wonderful use in the world. And they feel very glad about it. And actually the book is endorsed by a couple of nomadic people. One is from Ethiopia, Roba Gilo, and he's here. He's just completed his university education, but he's a nomad from Ethiopia. And then another is, let's see, I don't remember which one. Oh, let's see. Anyway, you'll see it in the book, but nomadic people are brilliant. Sidi Amar, he's another camel person from Niger. He was born in a camel caravan. He didn't need shoes until he was like 14. He's a brilliant camel handler. I've been fortunate enough to hang around him now at events. And he's very proud of it. So I'm very pleased that I've done something that they like. And I did consult them during the writing of the book. I used sensitivity readers. I did check with people from the culture that I was writing about to make sure that I was interpreting things correctly and not, stepping on toes and not saying that I think I understand something that I don't understand, because it's not my culture. So it's been a great collaborative effort to bring their voices forth, and they're happy with it.
So the journey began as a personal one, but it's benefited so many beyond yourself, and not only in its original use, but just advancing the science, of it. and there's an element here. Probably the nomadic people would say, well, we're not going anywhere, so it's okay. But just putting the highlight on them, and that living in a community, with animals and respecting them and raising them with reverence is so important. And they've been doing it for thousands of years, and we really don't do that. I mean, it's pretty horrible how in the U.S. we raise animals. I mean, a lot of countries would never even consider crowding your animals together like that, And I thought that, that this book, it sort of puts a spotlight on that. It's like, well, the animals are living a really close relationship with humans, and they're helping each other. They're taking care of each other. And there should be reverence for that. And hopefully that will change things for other species as well. So, I think the last question I really have for you is, what's next for Camel Milk, and what's next for you in this career of being a camel milk expert, do you think?
Well, let's talk about the pastoralists first. Part of my mission with Camel Crazy is because the pastoralists are under threat in many countries. As industrial development encroaches on grazing areas, on forests, on places like that, as people do things that fence in properties and they cannot get across. And then there's myths about pastoralism, which aren't necessarily true at all, like that it damages the land or something. Actually, it's not. It's more regenerative than it is the other way. But pastoralists are under threat. And so they still, however, though, hold a lot of keys to things that we need to know for human development and human benefit, and maintain some of the positive things for the climate. So it's really sad that they don't really get much attention in the big scheme of things. They don't have a lot of money. They're out doing stuff with the animals. So they're not like, there must be a pastoralist lobbyist here or there, but it's a rare thing that they get much attention in the world platform. So I am concerned about them. Second of all, as far as a career as a camel milk person, that's really not much of a career, because it's more of a, philanthropic. I'm not philanthropic with my time endeavor. So it's not really like a monetary thing. It's just something that I do to try to help everyone. It's really been a passion. More, I'm a writer and speaker and things like that. But hey, there was a void, obviously, for a camel milk expert as far as someone like myself, and you're looking at it, I think.